In Martha's speech is Kelly Smith. Kelly, can you give us Martha's objectives today?
Yes, with that. Martha speaking out of the Public Communicator Manual. Number 4, how to say it. Her objectives are: select the right words in the sentence structure to communicate your ideas clearly, accurately, and vividly. Use rhetorical devices to enhance and emphasize ideas. Eliminate jargon and unnecessary words and use correct grammar. Time 5 to 7 minutes.
Martha's been coming to this Toastmasters group for a little while now. She has entertained us, she has made us think, and today we hope to have her do it again. Martha Goodrich, the unknown hero, Martha Goodrich.
Fellow Toastmasters, there have been so many people in our country, it's hard to pick one that I thought was great, one who was a hero. It's hard to decide which would be a favorite which time. But one of my heroes was not even born in this country. He was born in Belgium in 1790. In 1790, all of Europe were talking about the Indians. There were so many stories about Indians in this country. There's so many kinds of Indians. And as Pierre Jean de Smet grew, he heard all these stories, and he finally made the decision that Indians had souls as pure as little children. And as he grew, he decided his life role would be to work with these Indians and live with them. He emigrated to this country, graduated from a Jesuit seminary, and was sent to Paraguay. But the Indians down there had learned about alcohol, and he was very disillusioned. And after 2 years, he came back and was in a mission in St. Louis. This was a time also when beaver hats were the rage. Those tall hats that all the men wore, they wanted them everywhere. And if you could not afford a beaver hat, you wanted a tall hat made of rabbit fur. They had trapped all the beaver in Europe and in Russia. There were none there. And the beaver lived in the northwestern states, in Oregon, Montana, Washington, Idaho, where the streams were cold and icy. Now, to trap a beaver, one has to step in the cold water and place the trap, wait a day, and if they catch a beaver, they get in the cold water, take the trap out, skin the beaver, save the skin, and then go to another stream and place the trap again. It was a cold, lonely life, and most of the trappers lived alone. Some had Indian wives. Once a year, there was a rendezvous where they would all meet. The eastern buyers would come, buy the beaver skins, and then they would have 4 days of partying, and then they would go back to their lonely lives. Now, in this country, there's a state called Montana, a lake, Flathead Lake, and around the lake are a tribe of Indians, the Flathead Indians. These Indians worship the sun. They knelt every day and prayed to the sun. In fact, there's a famous highway that goes from Montana to Canada called Going to the Sun Highway, which is about one of the legends of this tribe. Now, these Indians often had these trappers live among them, and many of the trappers were French, and they were Catholic. And the Indians watched them. They would put 6 marks on a tree and then rest on the 7th, because in the Bible it says, "Thou shalt not labor on the 7th day." They also had their beads. They would say their prayers. And the Indians decided that the French God was better than the sun. So they said, "How can we have your religion? You can't, you have to have a priest." What's a priest? Eventually, they learned a priest was a black robe. To them, a black robe was a priest. But you have to have a black robe come live with you to teach you all the prayers. The furthest town west was St. Louis, and the Indians were determined. They sent 5 of their braves to go back to St. Louis, and it's believed they drowned trying to cross the treacherous Snake River. But they were not giving up. The next year they were going to send 5 more braves across the plains. But an Indian wife wanted to go with them, and her husband, a white trapper, insisted on going too. And it's believed they were killed because this white man was with them. By now the Frenchmen were feeling guilty they hadn't helped the Indians plan a safer trip. So they plotted the next journey down the rivers that Lewis and Clark took, the Yellowstone into the Missouri, into the Mississippi. And so it was that in 1830, 5 filthy Indians wearing nothing but loincloths came to the mission where Pierre de Smet was, and let him know in broken English they wanted a black robe to live with them, to teach them. So he promised them that the next year, the first wagon trains going to Oregon, he would be with them. So they sent 5 Indians down to Fort Hall to wait for him. And when he came, they went to another valley in Idaho called Pierre's Hole. And they said over 1,600 flatheads came down there to meet Father de Smet. So the first Catholic Mass was said there in 1831. Now, if you're a skier, Pierre's Hole is right by Grand Targhee Ski Resort now. Then they all went back to Montana, and Pierre de Smet lived among them. He also lived in Oregon and Washington, South Dakota, and there are towns in all those states named after him. The thing that makes him a hero is the way he taught these people. Because he believed they had souls as pure as little children, he taught them as little children. He would go to the small tribes and teach one child one of the 10 Commandments. Then he would go to another tribe and teach one child there another one. Then they would get together and teach each other, and eventually everybody knew the 10 Commandments. But this is one of the conversations I'd like to read to you. He reached into his sack and he brought out a handful of oats, and from his hand he picked one grain. Look at this seed, Walking Bear. From this seed a whole new plant will come. The Indian laughed. Grow a seed from this. If we put a stone in the earth, a mountain won't grow. Father de Smet said, a stone is dead, but there's life here. Just as the grass died, so shall each of us die, and as we have gathered the seed, a whole new plant will come from it. God will gather our souls, and a new life will be born to us in heaven. Nothing ever dies but the body of things. Look at your hand, Walking Bear. Is that you? The flathead held out his hand. No, Father, it's my hand. And your foot? Is that you, Walking Bear? No, if my foot were cut off, I'd still be here. Where are you, Walking Bear? Are you in your shoulders? In your stomach? The Walking Bear looked. He said, Father, I think I'm another man inside myself. And then Father de Smet said, and that other man inside you is your soul. Like the bird that shatters the shell, when you die, your soul will shatter your body and live. And the grass in this seed will shatter the husk and grow into another plant. Now because he was so trusted, whenever there were arguments, he went to help sign treaties and work with the Indians. And twice during the Civil War, he traveled all the way to Washington and talked to Abraham Lincoln. Send money to the Indians. You sign treaties, you would give them money. They're starving. Please send them money. And at the last peace conference, he was sick, but he was there to help sign the treaty. And so Father de Smet is one of my heroes because I love to read about him. Mr. Toastmaster.
Please take a moment and vote for who you felt best accomplished